into Coder Conversations, connect with us or watch any previous episode at www.coderconvos.com. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brian Russick, professional drummer, drum teacher based out of the Suffolk County, Long Island, New York area. If anyone wants to book a lesson with me, I could be found at brianrussick.com.
And for today's guest, we have Dan Jolley, freelance writer. He's currently working at Wizards of the Coast, but he's worked in comics. Just a lot. You've been writing for everything pretty much. Hard to put you in a category.
Right.
But welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure to have you here. Just to get it started, can you give us a little bit about your background? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I've been writing professionally for better than 30 years now. I got started when I was still in college. I was just mentioning right before the show started recording. I was 19 and sort of tripped and fell into meeting a couple of professional comic book artists, Tony Harris and Craig Hamilton, in Macon, Georgia. And this was in the early 90s. In fact, it was 1990. In fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They decided that they liked the cut of my jib, so to speak, and introduced me to a couple of editors. And I started getting comic book work before I got out of college. In fact, I paid for the last couple of quarters at the University of Georgia with comic book money. And I very briefly was in the journalism school there. I got an English degree and wasn't sure what to do, and so I thought I'd get a journalism degree as well.
Yeah.
And it took me about 5 seconds to realize that I would much rather make stories up than try to report on the real world. So kept writing comic books. From there, various connections let me get into writing media tie-in novels. Done a little bit of that, wrote novelizations for like Iron Man and Transformers, and did tie-ins. In fact, my first prose work was a Star Trek novel.
Awesome.
Did one for the TV show Angel, the Buffy spinoff.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
From there, got into original novels, and my first original novel came out in 2007. And it's just like branches off a tree. Like I never stop doing any particular one thing. It's just one. It's like if there's a little lull in one outlet,
jump on something else. Yeah, jump on to the next.
And that led into screenwriting. I wound up selling a pilot to Nickelodeon in 2018. It didn't get produced. It was greenlit. I mean, it was like it was on the way. We had a showrunner.
Right.
And Viacom fired all of the executives.
Oh no!
In that office, and all of the projects, including mine, got swept out.
They got all scrapped. Wow, that's crazy.
And started writing video games in fact, it was also 2007. Got a job on an MMO that nobody ever heard of. But that led to other work. Yeah, it was called Fallen Earth.
Huh.
2.5 years.
Is that PC?
Do what?
Oh, was that PC?
PC?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was PC. It was a post-apocalyptic thing set in the Grand Canyon area. But that led to a bunch more video game stuff. I did Transformers, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, and did a game called Prototype 2. And I guess probably the best known one was a game called Dying Light. I was brought in to write side quests, but the longer I was there and the more I shot my mouth off, the more involved I became, and I wound up rewriting the entire main story of the game. So like 95% of the main story is mine.
Wow.
And I concentrated on novels for a little bit after that. But now I'm back in the game space. I'm working on the new GI Joe Snake Eyes
Nice.
game, and
Nice.
very, very happy to be a part of that.
So yeah, you've written for a wide variety of genres, video games, comics, etc. Like, can you explain kind of like the difference between each genre? Like, what do you have to do for comics that's different than video games, that's different from novels?
Well, I was really lucky to basically learn to write by writing comic books, because writing a comic book script is one of the most rigid, unforgiving kinds of pieces of writing you can do.
Yeah.
Because the number of pages is fixed for whatever project it is. Like when I started out, the standard single issue, monthly issue is 22 pages. And, then you can get like longer ones, graphic novels, but still the page count is fixed there.
Yeah.
So your script has to fit that number of pages precisely.
Exactly.
There is no wiggle room.
Yeah.
Depending on the artist you're working with, the number of panels on the page cannot exceed a certain number. Like Tony Harris, I mentioned earlier, I worked with him for a long time, and he never wanted to draw more than 4 panels on a page. And in fact, ideally, if he could have, he would have drawn one panel on every page. But no more than 4. But then you get other artists like the famous George Perez, who could draw 25 panels on a page and make it look brilliant.
Wow.
But the number of panels, depending on the artist, is rigid. The amount of dialogue that you can write has to be really, really concise, because you don't want the words to cover up the art. It's a visual medium, and you can't have a word balloon right over someone's face. So it was like an exercise in learning to write inside specific parameters, and that served me really well transitioning into video games, because like video games, the unlike screenplays, there is no industry standard video game script format.
Okay.
But it varies from the kind of game to the kind of game. A lot of the time you'll have what they call cutscenes in a video game, which is like where the action stops and it's like you watch a little movie play out.
The video pops up, right?
Yeah. And writing a cutscene is a lot like writing a screenplay. But the parameter then is the length in time. Like when I was doing Prototype 2, I wasn't allowed to write any cutscene that was longer than 90 seconds.
That's tough.
And 90 seconds for like a TV commercial, that's an ocean of time. But if you have like this dramatic scene and you're trying to get like a lot of information conveyed and dramatic pauses and lots of emotion, 90 seconds, you have to be really, really concise.
It's tough. Yeah, it sounds tough.
And the other part of writing for video games that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of the time you're writing dialogue directly into an Excel spreadsheet, or these days a lot of the time it's a Google sheet, but it's like a literal spreadsheet. And a lot of what that's done for is for what they call barks, or ambient dialogue, and that's serves 2 purposes. One, it's stuff that NPCs say, non-player characters in the game that you don't control. Ambient dialogue is used to make the world feel more alive. So, like if you're wandering through a town in Assassin's Creed and you hear 2 merchants arguing about a shipment of melons or whatever, that's ambient dialogue. But the other kind that's harder is the kind that gives the player information about the state of the game, particularly in combat.
Oh, wow.
Because like if you're playing Mafia 3 and you're in a firefight and you're trying to take down this guy with a shotgun, then you're going to have a very small window of opportunity when he's reloading to pop up and shoot him. But
Yeah.
you need to hear him say, "I'm reloading," so that you know when that window of opportunity begins.
Okay.
But you also don't want to hear him just say the words "I'm reloading" over and over and over and over, because that becomes really repetitive and annoying. So what you have to do in that spreadsheet is write "I'm reloading" like 15 different ways.
Wow.
I'm reloading. Gotta reload. I'm out of ammo. Need some ammo. Who's got some ammo? Need some
Right.
shells. I'm out of and and if you're playing the kind of game that has those kinds of barks in it, then you need to have those kinds of variations for every single state of the game. So
Wow.
if there's a rocket attack coming in, then you got to have 15 different ways to say rocket incoming.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that's necessary. And if it's done well, then it really, really makes the game feel alive, and everyone hates it.
Yeah. So to me, to me, it sounds really difficult.
It makes your brain pour out your ears.
Yeah.
But writing comic books and writing video game stuff, that can get so rigid. Then when I started writing prose, then it was all of a sudden it was like, I can make these chapters as long as I feel like. I can just write whatever I want to. If I can write an entire page, if I want to write an entire page of dialogue, I can. Amazing.
Wow.
I don't know if you ever saw the episode of Seinfeld when Kramer painted over some of the lines on the road to make wide lanes.
Oh yeah.
And like Elaine was driving along, she was like, "Ooh, wide lanes, how luxurious!"
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
how it felt to me when I started writing like novels.
Okay.
So yeah, I discovered that I was a novelist at heart. Really, I mean, I love all kinds of writing. As long as I'm writing, I'm happy. I'm thrilled beyond words to be working on GI Joe.
Yeah.
I'm also still writing novels because I love it.
So, like, I know with things like comic books and video games, you have to kind of convey a lot of detail within a very short amount of space. Like, how are you able to communicate what needs to be communicated with like so little to really work with?
Well, a comic book script is not like a novel at all, in that really only maybe 3 or 4 people are ever going to read it. It's a comic book script is basically a set of instructions to the artists. So I like, you do page 1, 4 panels or however many,
Yeah.
panel 1, and then you describe what happens in that panel. And my philosophy on that has always been put in everything that absolutely has to be there, but nothing that doesn't have to be there. Because while I am the one writing the story, then that story is going to get interpreted by the artist, or if there's more than one on the team, artists. And I want to give them the room to be creative on their own.
Sure.
So, like, if there's a scene where a guy is jogging across Central Park, and out of the blue, a bolt of lightning comes down and strikes him. If it doesn't matter what he looks like, then I'm not going to specify that. Then the artist can draw whatever they want to.
Okay.
They can draw a tall, lean black guy, or a short, fat white guy, or a guy who looks like the artist's annoying upstairs neighbor, or whatever.
So it's being just left wide open for the artist.
As much as you can, yeah.
Yeah.
And not
That's
every
awesome.
writer follows that philosophy. Alan Moore, the guy who was responsible for like Watchmen, V for Vendetta,
Yeah.
the list goes on.
Right.
Brilliant master. Like there was a long time when the comic book equivalent of the Oscar awards is the Eisner Awards. And there was a long time when every year Alan Moore was nominated for Best Writer, and every year Alan Moore won because he was the best writer. But his scripts are so detailed, so detailed. if he writes a character standing in front of a bookshelf in a library,
Yeah.
he'll put every title of every book in the script.
Wow.
He will describe every item of clothing that every character is wearing and how they're wearing it.
That's
Now,
intense.
he does this brilliantly, and it works. But there are artists who don't want to have that amount of detail dictated to them.
Yeah.
Like I knew one guy who we were talking about that kind of script, and he was like, "Draw it yourself. Draw it yourself, man. What do you need me for?" So, I not that I would compare myself with Alan Moore because I never would, but I'm also just not that kind of comic book writer.
Right.
Right. So it sounds like it's a balancing act between you and the artist. Like you got to kind of know their limits, what they work best with, and kind of adjust a little bit.
Yeah, and ideally, you know who the artist is. Like either you just already know them. Like in a perfect world, you've already worked with them, and that you work well together.
Yeah.
If you don't know the artist, the best thing you can do is get in touch with them. Get in touch with them, call them up, have a conversation, find out what they like to draw and what they don't like to draw. That's one of the first questions I always ask. If some guy's like, "I absolutely hate to draw cars,"
Right.
I'm like, maybe I won't write a scene in a used car lot then. You know? Maybe that's going to take place at a putt-putt course. But sometimes it's happened not infrequently that I will write a script and I don't know who the artist is. Like the artist hasn't even been chosen yet.
Oh wow.
And so then you just kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. Sometimes it works out beautifully. The first time that happened was way back. One of the first things I ever got published in comics was an Aliens story. Dark Horse had the Aliens license. And this artist named John Nadeau out of Florida, I had never heard of, didn't know anything about him. And I got the art back, and he made my story better.
Yeah.
He went in and added details that I hadn't thought of. And just it was a altogether better experience reading it. And I got his number from the editor and called him up, and I was very effusive in my praise, like, "Man, this is fantastic! You did such a great job." And he was like, "Who is this freak on the phone calling me?
Who is he?" Wow.
But then sometimes it goes wrong. Like that's another reason why I gravitate toward writing novels.
Yeah.
Not exclusively, but I do like to write novels because then if something goes wrong, generally it's just my fault, and I'm the one that has to live with it.
Right.
But I've had projects where I write a story and then I get the art back, and I'm like, this is not what the script said.
Yeah.
This is not. Don't know why this scene is in here. I didn't write this. And sometimes that can be fixed, and a lot of the time it can't. A lot of the time you're too close to the deadline, and if you delay to have the artist fix the art, then you're going to wind up paying a penalty for the printing process. And well, at least one time I called up the editor and said, "This scene does not happen the way it is in the script.
Yeah.
As it is on the page, this doesn't make any sense."
All right.
And the editor said, "This project is a lost cause, Dan. Let it go."
So I mean, what would happen? What would happen when it was obvious it wasn't going to work?
Well,
I mean, would the project get scrapped? Like, what would typically happen in that scenario?
usually it just goes out. It just goes out there with your name on it.
Wow.
I mean, you can, if you want to, try to explain to the public what happens, but in my experience, it's usually better not to get too, like, you don't want to get into like name calling and ball swinging. It makes you seem
Right.
but it can happen that there's a project out there that makes no sense at all with your name on it, and you just have to live with it.
Yeah, and I guess, it might look like a mistake to you because you know what it's supposed to be, but it doesn't necessarily look like a mistake to people reading it.
There's one project. There's one project that I did also relatively early on that diverged. It just went off the rails. This whole project just went way off the rails. Like not only did the art not match the scripts to begin with, but then I rewrote the script to match the art. But the original script is the one that got sent to the printer.
Oh no!
So like the dialogue didn't even match the art.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, somebody brings me a copy of that thing at a convention, and it was like, "Oh, this is great, man! I love this!" Like, and I usually say, I usually say to the person, "Oh, you're the guy. You're the guy that likes it." Okay.
You're the guy. Exactly.
You just gotta kind of roll with it. So you work for like a lot of major series. How do you manage to stay like within the universe? Like this character is supposed to be like this. You don't want to write them in a way that makes them look like out of character.
For the major companies, Marvel and DC, and I've done like two things for Marvel. Most of the stuff that I've done for mainstream comics has been for DC, and that hasn't been for quite a while. But the editors will tell you, the editor at a comic book company is like your own personal god, basically.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones that give you the job, and their word goes.
Right.
So they're like a firewall.
So are they like a producer as well as an editor?
Kind of. Yeah.
That's kind of what it's sounding like. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't ever want to be an editor because then you have to have a degree in psychology because you're managing a team of creative people. And that's, the cliche that's like herding cats. Every creative person wants, they have their own ideas. They want to do things their own way. And sometimes they can all mesh with the team and sometimes it doesn't as well. But I've told people more than once in mainstream comics, it doesn't actually matter if the story is good. It matters that the editor likes it.
Yeah.
Because you can believe with your whole heart that the script that you've just written is the best thing that you've ever done. But if you're doing that for DC and the editor doesn't like it, it's not going.
It doesn't matter at that point. Interesting.
Yeah. So, like I was doing back in 2007, 2004. I've been doing this a long time. I was doing 4 different monthly series at the same time. I was doing Voltron and Micronauts for Devil's Due, and I had sold DC an original creator-owned series of mine called Bloodhound. And while Bloodhound was in development, they approached me about doing Firestorm. And they were like, that's like a whole story we can get into if you want to, Firestorm's development. But while I was doing Firestorm, the editor called me up and said, "Hey, do a crossover with Bloodhound."
Oh wow!
And like, well, you have to. You do what they say.
You do what they say. Yeah.
You do what they say. So I had to rewrite, refigure out a whole bunch of plot stuff and switch things around. And there was a Firestorm Bloodhound crossover in a couple of issues.
Wow.
But yeah, the editors are the ones that are privy to all of the inner workings, all of the plans, all of the. Like there was another project where there was a one-shot graphic novel, and it was like the script was done, and then another editor came in to talk to my editor, and said, "Hey, can you get Jolley to switch out the villain in the story because the guy that he's got, I have an idea and I want to do something else with him." So my editor was like, "Hey, can you swap out your bad guy for another bad guy?" And the whole thing kind of fell apart. because of that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really difficult.
And you know, there are times when you can say no. I don't think that's going to work, and stand your ground.
Right.
But unless you are the kind of like comic book superstar who's sold millions of copies and made the company a lot of money, um, their word is law. So
Yeah.
you can try to stand your ground, but it might not turn out in your favor.
Yeah, I get that.
There is no union of comic book creators, and there are
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of other guys out there who would do your job
Who will
if they
do
got
it?
the chance.
Yeah.
So, like just take out this writer and plug in a new one, and there you go. So it's kind of a,
Yeah, it sounds like
like the woman I was involved with at the time hated it if I ever had anything negative at all to say about working on Firestorm, because she was like, "You're writing a mainstream DC comic book series. This is like you've made it. This is like what every aspiring comic book writer dreams of having happen."
Right.
And at the same time, I was like, "Yeah, but I'm miserable."
Yeah, isn't that interesting how that happens?
Now, I don't want to make it sound like I have nothing to say but negative stuff, because I love writing comic books. I'm still doing it. I have a kids graphic novel series that's coming out currently from Andrews McNeil. But it's not just getting to play with the toys that you loved when you were growing up. It's a job. It's like a serious job that has a lot of rules that you really have to follow.
Right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know, like as a programmer, you might think that you're going to come in and work on exciting technologies, but you come in and you're just working on creating forms that people fill out and send their data. So,
Right.
Here, write this login page.
exactly.
Exactly.
So, like, how was like, what was the difference between what you imagined the job was going to be and what it actually became, or what it actually was?
Well, I mean, I did grow up reading comic books. Loved them. Loved superheroes. I never had like an encyclopedic knowledge of either Marvel or DC, but I knew enough about it. So like my wife and I would be watching like The Flash when it came out, and some character would wander on screen, and I was able to say stuff like, "Hey, I think that's the Rainbow Raider." And I married a non-nerd. She didn't realize she had any nerdy tendencies until we got together. So she doesn't have the background that I do.
I see.
So like I guess you think what it's going to be like is I get to contribute to this universe. I get to contribute to this like pantheon of modern day gods and goddesses. I get to let my imagination run free and write the kinds of stories that I always wanted to see, and like,
sure.
I always wanted to have Batman do, whatever.
Right.
Well, you have to get approval for every story that you do. And sometimes you get to do really, really cool stuff. One little bitty tiny detail, I wrote 3 issues of Superman Adventures, which was the one that was aimed more at kids. And there was a scene where he's helping this woman who was in trouble, and she's like, "Yeah, I have all the information that you're asking me about. It's written down in my diary in my apartment. We just need to go get it." And he asked her what her address is, and he turns and uses a combination of telescopic and X-ray vision and reads her diary. And he says, "Okay, I've read it. We can go." And I had never seen that done before. Now, it may have been done because that's a hazard you run into when you've got characters that have been going for 90 years.
Right.
Stories tend to repeat themselves. But I had never seen that, and I thought it was incredibly cool. And that was just one little detail, one thing that I wanted to make Superman do. that I'd never seen him do before. But you know, all those
And it went
stories.
through. It went
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. That went through untouched.
Okay.
That was great. And
So that's like best case scenario, pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then worst case, you know, the editor doesn't like any of your story
Yeah.
ideas.
Right.
You know, the editor says, well, what we're actually looking for is Superman fighting Doomsday or whatever.
Yeah.
Again. But there is a period of what a lot of comic book professionals call paying your dues. And that's when you get any job you can and you do it brilliantly. You pour your heart and soul into it. And if the job you can get is writing an issue of the relaunch of Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys, then you make that the best damn miniseries that you could do.
Right.
And so it's not like cutting your teeth. You know, you learn the ins and outs of the industry. You learn the craft of it. You start to make contacts. You know, network. Find out which editors you like, which editors like you. It's a business. It's the entertainment business that just happens to involve comic books.
That's funny because you mentioned earlier about, you know, okay, this comic comes out and it's you know, your wife is telling you or girlfriend is telling you this is everything that you dreamed of, but you're miserable. I can relate to that with music. I used to live out in LA. And at one time I was playing with this, it's like a Japanese jazz fusion band, and they did covers. So they brought me in as a session guy and they expected me to play this stuff note for note. Now, if you know jazz fusion, you would know that, okay, first off, it's jazz. These guys are never playing it the same twice. It's always different. And I tried to explain that. I said, no, you realize, you know, jazz is always different. You know, it's all feel based. And they're like, yeah, but we like it this way. So, you know, I had to try my best to learn this stuff note for note. And it was a terrible experience. But a lot of people would be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, you're making money playing the drums. Like, why are you complaining? You know what I mean? So it reminds me of your situation.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm just this negative Nelly, you know, doing nothing but complaining, because it can be incredibly gratifying. It can be just lots of fun. Most of the time, I mean, that's why I have continued pursuing a career as a writer. I love writing. You know, so like Firestorm. They came to me in late 2003, I guess, mid or late 2003. And they were like, we want to do a reboot of our character Firestorm. And that's a character, it's a blue-eyed blonde high school jock named Ronnie Raymond and his science professor, Martin Stein. And they fused into this one character called Firestorm the Nuclear Man.
Wow.
You may have seen him on the TV show Legends of Tomorrow. And they came to me and they were like, we need a fresh start.
Right.
The existing Firestorm fan base is not big enough to support a new series, so we need a fresh start. And that's what they kept emphasizing, fresh. And I was like, do you mean so fresh that it's not the same guy? And I was on the phone with the editor at the time, and he goes, "Oh, let me call you back." Click. And I imagine him like running down the hall to the executive editor's office. And 10 minutes later, he calls me back and says, no, it's not the same guy. It's a different guy.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for that. And I said, okay, does it have to be a white guy?
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, let me call you back." 10 minutes later, he comes back, calls me back, and says, "New Firestorm is black."
Yeah.
And you know, like at the time, I was looking around at the entertainment landscape, and especially video games, and like comic books and video game heroes were just like 99% white dudes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not the world I see. That's not White is not the default for the human species. So, that's why the new Firestorm was a 17-year-old black kid from Detroit
Oh wow.
named Jason Rush. And in fact, it's that version that got onto the TV show Legends of Tomorrow, but they changed his name to Jefferson Jackson so that they wouldn't have to pay me.
Oh, it's sure. Right.
But then Jason Rush started showing up in video games, and so now occasionally I get checks.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So like that's like some residual income, right?
Yeah, and that's what started the misery. Is the existing Firestorm fan base who they were very angry that the new Firestorm wasn't Ronnie Raymond,
Right.
even though I had been explicitly instructed, that it could not be Ronnie Raymond.
Right. We need a fresh face.
And then this is a good example of the kind of like parameters and restrictions, because I had this whole like 3-issue arc plotted out where something had gone wrong with Ronnie Raymond, and he chose Jason Rush to be his successor, and there was like this very respectful send off, and he spent an issue training Jason in how to use the Firestorm powers. And then the executive editor read that and said, "Nope, happens all at once."
Right.
It's, what's the policy on cursing on this show?
We try to stay away from it. Try to keep it kid friendly.
Okay. Then replace the F word with crap. He said it goes bang crap on Firestorm. That was his decree. That was the boss man, the one in charge of the entire
right.
all of DC. Bang crap on Firestorm. So that's how the first issue ended, and everyone lost their minds about it.
Yeah.
And I got flamed with internet hatred.
Were you getting hate mail?
Oh God, yes. Oh, I mean, not snail mail. It was all online.
Well, yeah, still.
But yeah, I think I might have gotten a couple of death threats, but it was mainly just insults. It was mainly just, you shouldn't be allowed to write checks, Jolley.
Yeah. Who are you? Who are you?
I'm like, this is what this is.
You're like, hey, talk to the editor. Don't talk to me.
But that's that went out with my name on it. And that was before social media existed. So, I didn't have any kind of online community, not that I do now, but
Right.
I didn't have any online community that I could explain things to. There was the DC message board, but that was completely unmoderated. So it was kind of like trying to have a conversation in the middle of a Chuck E. Cheese,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was an interesting time. It was a little rocky.
So, like, what is the general feedback like when you do something dramatic to change the race of the character? I've seen it in other places, and some people go ballistic, or like, oh, why do we have to change that? It's SJW, or
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's good and bad ways to do anything. This, like Firestorm, it wasn't that we were coming out and saying, "Oh, Ronnie Raymond is now black." This was an entirely different human being.
Right.
But it's like, for so long, white was the default for superheroes. White male really was the default. White straight,
Right.
corn-fed Midwest, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and like I can see where where people say, why bother with switching the race? Why don't you create an original character? And I mean, I can see the point there. I can also see the point that things were weighted so heavily in favor of making all the characters white for so long
Yeah.
that, like, if there had been a little bit more awareness, if there had been a little bit less, a little bit fewer assumptions made, maybe some of those characters would have been black to begin with, or Hispanic, or
Sure.
Asian, or whatever.
Anything. Yeah.
Anything.
Anything.
They're white is not the majority on the planet,
No. It's interesting.
So it's interesting. Like when you're writing these other races, how do you like walk that fine line of, I guess, like sounding authentic, but not accidentally crossing over to something that people find offensive?
Well, with Firestorm, I just drew in my relationship with my father. Jason was 17, and he had a really rocky relationship with his dad. The way his family was his mom had left. His dad had lost his right arm in an industrial accident, and had become a bitter drunk because of it. The very first time you see Jason, he's at work at a restaurant. He's like a busboy, and one of the waitresses is trying to do some makeup on his face to cover up the massive black eye, like the shiner that he's got, because his dad punched him in the head.
Right.
Now, my dad was never physically abusive, but we did not get along. We did not see eye to eye on a lot of different areas. And I drew on my own experiences, and portrayed Jason as this kid who had a hard time with his dad. And this whole time I was terrified. Because, like, somebody online had already said, how is this 30-something-year-old white guy from the South going to write a 17-year-old black kid from Detroit? And the whole time I was like, I think I know what I'm doing.
I think I can do it.
I think I can do this.
Right.
And so the first issue came out, and I was at, like, Wizard World Chicago, I think. And this group of 4 young black men came up to my table, and were like, man, this is really real. This is like really authentic. Families. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so
made
relieved.
a change. Yeah, you've made a change for people.
I didn't screw it up.
Right.
That's kind of become like a hallmark of my writing, because I pitched a comic book series to Tokyo Pop. That's one of the other ones I was doing work for. And they were like, we really like this, but can you change the main character from a guy to a girl? I was like, I don't know. If I do that, will you hire me and give me money? And they were like, yes, that's the idea. And I said, yes, I can, because that's what freelancers say,
I can switch them out. Yeah.
Can you do X? Yes, I can do X. And then if you don't know how to do X, then you go figure out how to do
You go figure it out. Yeah.
So that got greenlit, but they couldn't decide on an artist. And I knew that they had plans to start up a line of prose novels. And I was like, would you be interested in me just writing this as a series of novels? And they said, oh yeah, hey, let's do that. Okay. And all of a sudden I became a YA author. But the main character there was a 16-year-old girl. To my great surprise, I was more surprised than anybody else. Apparently, I'm really good at writing female characters.
Yeah.
Who knew? Not this white boy. No. So yeah, my wife says that my inner child is like a 13-year-old girl. But since then, I wrote a Terminator miniseries and a trilogy of superhero horror novels and a mystery thriller, and currently got a fantasy sword and sorcery series, all of which have female main characters. And
man, you're busy.
Never wanted to. Since I've been doing this for a while.
You work on a lot of different projects. It sounds like. I mean, that must be fun to switch it. I know with music, I always like to do different things. I don't just like want to be cookie cutter and do just pop rock or
Right.
just punk. I like to kind of do a bit of everything.
Yeah, and it kind of works against me sometimes because, like, especially in Hollywood, people in Hollywood love to put you in a category. This person writes this, and we can
Yeah.
depend on this person to write this.
Right.
And then if you see that this person who writes this has then written this, it's like, well, I don't know if I trust that. But I have so many different ideas. I want to write so many different kinds of stories with so many different kinds of characters, um, and not once. I've been doing this since 2000. Let's see, 7 is when the first um, trilogy came out. So that's 18. That's my math. Since 2007, not once has any woman ever come to me and said, "Well, you got that wrong."
Right.
No woman would ever say that.
Right.
And the mystery thriller, it's called The Storm, and that is a story. It's set in a little bitty tiny 95% white southern town, and it stars the town's first ever black female sheriff.
Wow.
Who, after a devastating tornado, the tornado knocks the house off its foundations that everyone thought was abandoned and reveals a recently used torture dungeon. So she realizes that there's some predator that's been like dwelling undetected amid the townfolk there. But that was like double whammy. Like, oh, this middle-aged white guy is going to write this black woman main character, and so I vetted it with some friends of mine who are black women, and to my again relief, they were like, pretty good.
Checks out. Yeah.
They had like two things. They were like, maybe say it this way. Maybe do it this way. And I was like, yes, I will. Thank you very much for preventing me from embarrassing myself.
There we go.
So to avoid like writing a man in a woman's body, you pretty much rely on like feedback from women to kind of make sure it's authentic, or is it research?
A lot of feedback, yeah. But I apparently just have pretty good instincts for writing from a female perspective. It still kind of baffles me.
It's pretty unique.
But I like it. I like doing it. I like writing. Because you just said, like, to avoid writing a man in a woman's body. I don't ever want to do that. But I love writing, and I hesitate to use the term strong female characters because that's kind of become stigmatized. It's become sarcastic on its own. But like well imagined, fully imagined, powerful women. I'm kind of drawn. I love women. So, the more powerful female characters I can put out there in the world, the better.
Right.
And Gina Torres, if you're listening to this, I have a pilot script written for The Storm. This is tailor-made for you. Just hit me up. I'll send it to you.
So yeah, you mentioned there were some kind of projects that you wanted to work on. Like what are some series, video games, comics, universes that you want to explore that you haven't yet?
Ooh. Well, I kind of like, that's part of writing original novels, is that I get to just create my own worlds. So like I'm kind of just able to scratch the itches that I have. So I wrote The Storm, and that was going to be the first of a trilogy. I like trilogies. And then there was this pandemic that happened. And over the course of that, I lost my taste for the real world.
Yeah.
Completely. But I really enjoyed writing a mystery. That was my first mystery. So I switched over, and the one that's coming out now, it's called the Demon Sleuth Scrolls, and it's a sword and sorcery detective series. So I'm still writing mysteries set in a completely original world that I can do whatever I want to with.
Right.
So, it's like I don't really have too many things that I'm dying to do that I can't. I really would, and I mean, of course, every writer feels this way practically, but I really do want to see something put on the screen, TV or a movie. I would love to see something of mine,
Yeah.
just adapted, and not like the indirect thing where a character that I created might show up somewhere.
Right.
I mean, that's good. That's
That's
good,
cool still. Yeah.
but I really want to see something of mine that is up there the way I want it to be.
Now, how difficult would you say that is for that to happen?
Very,
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
Because if we're talking about
Um,
Hollywood, it's very transient, very flaky.
yeah, it almost happened. I almost had the show on Nickelodeon, and I don't remember. I might have been telling you guys this before the camera started rolling. In 2018, I was sometimes I write with a partner, a guy named Sean DeLoach, and he and I wrote a graphic novel for Dark Horse, a kids graphic novel, and we turned it into a half-hour comedy pilot script. So at the time, I had a manager, and he sent it out, and Nickelodeon came back and said, "We like this. We don't want to make this, but we
Right.
want to talk to you guys." And so we went
Okay.
into the Nickelodeon offices, and these two executives were like, "Here's an idea. It's like half an idea. If you guys can take this half of an idea and develop it into a full project, then maybe we can make something happen." And Sean and I were like, yeah, we can do that. We can totally
Let's
do
do it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like 2 weeks later, we went back and pitched them a fully fleshed out series, and they said yes. They bought it. They bought it. They went into development. We had a showrunner attached, Anthony Farrell, who has been showrunner on a boatload of other kids programming.
Yeah.
We had the plan all worked out that he was going to do like the first 2 seasons with Sean and me following him around like a puppy and learning how to do everything, and then he was going to turn it over to us. And then Viacom, that owns Nickelodeon, fired every executive there in the Santa Monica office.
Wow.
And every show that was in development, not just ours, all of them,
Gone.
everything trashed.
Gone.
So now I'm kind of like Uma Thurman's character in Pulp Fiction. She made a pilot. It wasn't picked up, so I sold a pilot script. It didn't ever make it to the air.
Right.
So are you planning to continue to go down that avenue to try to get something on TV?
I had decided to move away from it. I was just going to focus on writing novels, and it's like every time I make a plan, then outside forces come in and have other ideas. I did part ways with my manager, and I was just gonna write books and just write books. Then I was at a little author show at the Cobb County Library outside Atlanta, and this actress named Alexandra Foucard came up to my table and was like, "So what are your books about?" And I told her about The Storm, and she said, "I want the rights to this. I want to develop this.
Wow.
Let's work together." So she and I are we've got a script put together now, and it's already placed pretty highly in a couple of
Looks like we lost him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll give it a second to rejoin. But yeah, that's really interesting.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I never knew the insides of the comic book industry.
Because it's like he's saying that, okay, you're given a character and you write something, but then you hand it over to the editor, and the editor says, no, we don't want this kind of character. So then you're kind of like, okay, well, I spent all this time creating this character, but now you're not going to let me use it. Kind of like an executive producer. That's why I asked him, like, are editors sort of like producers? Because they're saying, what goes.
It's kind of like a code review, I guess. Like, somebody's looking over your stuff; they have to approve it before it gets merged in. So I can understand how like that, because when I was working in my first company, it took forever to get the code in because they would go scrape through everything, make 10,000 suggestions. So I can see how, like, depending on your editor, it could be fun or it could be a nightmare.
Yeah, and like he was saying about Hollywood, it's definitely extremely flaky. I've heard of a lot of people writing scripts where the scripts, it gets bought, but then never made. It just sits there. So you can make a lot of money writing scripts, but it doesn't mean they're gonna, you're not necessarily gonna see them on TV or in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's just so much content out there, so many people that want to break into the industry that, a lot of people, they say yes just to keep the door open, but they're going to go with whatever in their mind is the best thing that they got. But they just told you yes to say, okay, in case yours is the best, we'll pick this up. But if not, I say, at least I still have it like,
like in their back pocket.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
Got you back.
Hey, sorry about that. I got a message. Connection lost. We're trying to reconnect.
Oh man. Well, let me try to think what note we left on. Did you remember, Brian?
I think we were talking about comics, though.
The pilot script with the storm.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it won one of the smaller film festivals, and so we're trying to see what our options are about getting in front of people, and seeing if we can make something happen. We might end up raising funds and doing like an indie film.
Wow. So what does marketing look like for something like that?
Well, that is outside of my area of expertise. I've never been any good at marketing. I'm the last guy to ask about how to market independent projects.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I was like, oh, I'm just going to write my books. And then a guy that I've known for a long time and have worked with in the past calls me up and is like, hey, you want to come work on G.I. Joe?
Yeah.
The answer to which is yes. Well,
yes, of course.
So I'm writing books at the same time that I'm doing this other stuff now. So, it's a lot of fun. It's really rewarding. It's also kind of like having homework every night of the week for your entire life.
For your entire life.
I can imagine. But yeah, we're getting to the top of the hour. Before we get out of here, did you want to leave artists with any closing thoughts, and where can they find you at?
Best place to look is on my website, which is www.danjolley.com, and that's DANJOLLEY. I lurk around Facebook, and I'm on Blue Sky, but I think that goes back to the poor marketing skills. I'm terrible at social media. Anybody who wants to reach out to me, I will happily answer and have a conversation. As far as like just putting stuff out unprovoked, I'm terrible at that.
Right. It's just not going to be through like Instagram or something like that.
Probably not. My life is my writing is awesome. My private life is boring, like you wouldn't believe.
But yeah, man, it was a pleasure having you on the show. We have to get you back so you can walk us through some more of your favorite storylines, favorite projects, and whatever else you got on your mind.
Anytime, I'm at your disposal.
Yeah, I think we only scratched the surface tonight.
Well, better than 3 decades worth of experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.